YouTubers and YouTubelets, and welcome to another exciting episode. Well, not really exciting, but just another episode of My Two Cents. This is the second episode. I haven't done a My Two Cents in a long time. The other My Two Cents episode was really more like a rant on the whole rantings and ravings of what's going on at Nintendo. And but that's a video for another time. Nintendo's a whole separate thing. I'm working on something for Nintendo, and hopefully when the NX is announced, I will be done with that vid, and hopefully you guys enjoy it. Anyways, about 3 days ago, Phil Spencer was interviewing with I want to say G Spot, yeah, GameSpot, and it's funny because the Xbox boss thinks that console wars are incredibly dull, very unhealthy, and I agree. I don't like Microsoft's business practices when it comes to the consoles. I used to love them. I was a big supporter of the 360, huge. I got plenty of games. I even supported the Kinect at some point or another. And when the Xbox One came out, it was, or announced, I should say, it was depressing, to say the least, for me as an Xbox fan. You know, coming from a Sony platform, you know, I couldn't buy the PlayStation 3. That thing was way too expensive at the time, and even when the price dropped by that point, it was, the library of games was just too humongous for me to even believe that I could even ever catch up. So right now, as time or as luck would have it, I have a PlayStation 4, which, I mean, I can download some of the best PS3 games and play it on my system if I want, in order to catch up to some of the greatest hits. My kids have my old 360, which still works. I mean, my son's playing Garden Warfare 2 right now, or Garden Warfare, whichever one. But yeah, so, but at some point or another, every company, every gaming company that I've ever supported has had their head crawl up their own asses when successful. For instance, I mean, I don't know what happened to ColecoVision. I just know I used to have the system. My uncle gave it to me, and I used to love it. I mean, all it had was pretty much Pong and tanks. Simple. The controller was just a box with a knob on it. You really didn't have to do much. After that, I jumped ship to Atari because there were really no games for the ColecoVision. So Atari 2600. One of the brightest memories I have of that system is playing a side-scrolling Star Wars game in which you are in an X-Jet trying to dodge the AT-ATs. If anybody remembers this game, and if anybody remembers what it's called, please leave your comments below so that I can figure it out. I would Google it, but I'm just too lazy today. I don't know. Anyways, that was one of my fondest memories. I mean, I played Pac-Man, Asteroid, Centipede, and all that other stuff, but even Frostbite, Frogger, Pitfall. I had a lot of classics. It wasn't until I played Superman for the first time that I saw where the games were going. The Superman game for that system, I mean, it just seems that licensed things is some of the most god-awful creations for consoles, and it's very, very sad because those should be some of the most entertaining things, along with like the movies. I remember the movies for superheroes in the 80s being really crappy, but now look at us. I mean, we've reached a golden age in which we're redoing the golden age of comics into the golden age of cinema, and it's fantastic and it's wonderful, and we might suffer some oversaturation, but only if people keep making crap superhero movies. Anyways, Phil Spencer goes on to say that, and I'm taking this as a direct quote, I've said it before. The one thing that I probably find a little distasteful in the discourse around games is the divisiveness that people try to build between platforms. It becomes more about what piece of plastic I own than what games I'm playing. It becomes more about somebody else failing than the things I love succeeding. Now, in that quote, and it's not even the entire quote, but in that entire quote right there, I 100% agree. You can be fans of companies and things that you find enjoyable. There's no denying that You have the freedom to do so. But when it comes to being that little extra, like that fanboy that people love to defend their consoles or their items like they're a mother, like it's a part of their family. It's insane. That's where I draw the line. I personally, for instance, I have had my falling out with Nintendo since Nintendo 64. And I won't go into it here because, as I said, I'm working on another video. But that doesn't mean I want them to fail. That doesn't mean that I wish they would just get flushed down the toilet. Far from it. I want them to succeed. I want them to be what they used to be. I want them to bring back the golden age of games that we had back in the 80s, when people could trust Konami, when people could trust Acclaim, when people could trust Tecmo. All these companies that came from Japan that used to make fantastic games are now in this hellhole, in a rut, so to speak. And I don't want Nintendo to be there. Far from it. I am a huge fan of gaming in general. There is no hate for one side or the other. There is lacklusterness, and there is a little bit of depression in the state in which certain companies do their business. But other than that, there really isn't like, oh, I hope this company freaking fails. Because if one company starts failing, then the domino effect takes place. If there's no competition, then the main competition stops trying. And the same thing happens to them. Their heads get blown so far up their asses that they don't care about you anymore. The same thing happened to the Xbox. With the Xbox 360, it had a great platform. The multiplayer was one of the best I've ever seen in my life, till today, actually. There hasn't been a multiplayer experience that I've had since Halo 2 and 3, and maybe even a little bit of 4. I didn't really get into playing multiplayer. But it was beautiful. It was awesome. And when they turned the Xbox One into what seemed to be like a pretty much glorified DVR, it was sad. It was sad. And so I jumped ship, and I was like, well, maybe it's time for me to go back to Sony, because Sony was advertising the way you were supposed to. I mean, you're advertising a game console to gamers. And here, Microsoft is advertising a game console to moviegoers and TV watchers. And the gamers are sitting on the sidelines like, whoa, like what the hell's going on, dude? So every company has had its faults. The PlayStation 3 had that was $600 console is just, no, just don't. I don't care what kind of chips you got in there. They could be made of diamonds that are constantly pooping out gold eggs. I don't care. You just don't. Okay? People want to be able to afford fun, not be depressed by it. Like going to the theater with a family of 5 or a family of 6, for instance, cost roughly about almost $100. If you include food, that's slightly more. So you end up pretty depressed if the movie sucks ass in the theater and you realize you just spent $100 for nothing. So in that same respect, gaming works the very same way. The $60 price tag on video games, for instance, if a game isn't worth playing more than once, in my opinion, I'm not paying $60 for it. I don't care what anybody says. This game is so good. Yeah, I've bought games at $60 that were so amazing, but I've only played once. They have no replay value. And I'm not going to list those games here today because I'm not putting the games on blast. I'm actually just talking about Phil Spencer. And I do agree with him. I mean, it's a sickening state in which it puts the visage of gamers in a very negative light. It puts us in a very unintelligible place as far as, people trying to understand us. I'm working on something where I want to help kids and parents kind of communicate to each other about this in particular, the gaming. It's very hard as a kid to go up to a parent who knows nothing of games and knows nothing of gaming, or has only the knowledge of old school gaming, and try to describe to them like, oh, this is so cool, you should come check this out, and get them interested in what you like. I had that issue as a kid. I have plenty of friends who have had that issue as kids. So I'm actually working on something to kind of bridge the gap, because as a parent, I want to help other parents understand their children. It's important. And when these fanboys put a negative light on us as a whole, it's really damaging to not just the people who play games, but the people who watch people play games. It puts us in a very negative light, and it's not fair. So people out there, if you're watching this, really, you just got to stop. If you're a fan of gaming, then you're a fan of gaming. I play on the PC, I play on the PS4, I played on the PlayStation, the N64, every single Nintendo console, except for the Wii U, because I don't find that console attractive at all. I mean, there's really nothing to play on it anyways, other than reruns of stuff that I've already owned. So Phil Spencer goes on to say that, I know it's not everybody, and it's easy to find pockets of that vitriol and kind of think that that is gaming. But I'm not going to embrace that. I'm going to actively push against that. People sometimes will make fun of me that I mentioned Sony or I've mentioned Nintendo. It's not to placate anybody or to make them think that I'm some kind of good guy. My job isn't really to keep you from buying something else. My job is to make you proud of what we offer and to give you an enjoyable experience with the product that we have. That's 100% of what I'm focused on. Now, that's the end of the quote, and it is a great quote. The guy is really intelligent. I've always liked Phil Spencer. It's Dan Matrick that I had an issue with. He was the guy that made the decision to turn the Xbox One into a cable box. Poor decisions were done all around. But Phil Spencer seemed to be turning the system around and taking it to the road where it needs to be. And that's great. I fully support it. Once the system drops down in price, maybe in a year or two, I might actually get one. I mean, there's a couple of games I'm actually curious about that are Xbox exclusives, exclusivity is a tough thing because on the one hand, it's great because it does make you want to buy a console and it's wonderful. But at the same time, in this day and age with the whole digital era and how easy it is to, upload a game into a console or a computer, it kind of seems unfair at the same time, so I'm kind of on the fence. But with that said, I just wanted to let you guys know my 2 cents as far as Phil Spencer's quote, what he thinks about fanboyism, pretty much, because that's all it is. You guys out there just really need to calm down. This is a great era for entertainment in general, as a whole. And me as a fan suggest that everyone that enjoys movies, TV, comic books, video games, or any kind of thing that was considered niche back in the day, I suggest you enjoy this time. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know if it's ever going to end. I really hope it doesn't. But if it does, you want to look back and say, this was just the funnest time of my life. The year 2015, 16, 17, the next couple of years is going to be great for gaming and great for movies. So really soak it all in, take it all in and enjoy it, appreciate it, embrace it, and thank those that made it for you. I mean, it's easy to sit behind a monitor and judge somebody when you're not the one doing anything, so really just enjoy it and really truly appreciate those that work really hard to give us this type of entertainment. It is niche, it's not for everybody. But with that, I'm going to wish you guys a great day, and thanks for watching my 2 cents.